The following program is brought to you by PodcastOne Sportsnet.
This episode of the Steve Austin Show is sponsored in part by DDP Yoga. Boy, I tell you what, busting my ass over the years in the business of pro wrestling, I am not surprised my body has taken its share of bumps and bruises. And my good buddy Diamond Dallas Page knows all about the wear and tear the ring takes on your body because he did the same exact thing I did. Pro wrestling. Dude ended up in the Hall of Fame just like I did. Turns out, Dallas's DDP Yoga Fitness System was specifically designed to burn fat, reduce pain, and heal from injuries. And just check out this list of folks he's helped out with this program. Guys like Scott Hall, Goldust, Chris Jericho, Edge, Jake Roberts, AJ Styles, Drew McIntyre, NXT's Bobby Fish, and now Stone Cold Steve Austin is now on the DDPY list of people that has helped. And I've committed to the program. I'm going to stick with it. We're going to see how far this thing goes. And let me tell you something, in talking to Dallas, dude is so positive that you'll absolutely love the DDPY program and using the DDPY app. He's doing something he ain't never done before. He's going to give you 7 days free to try it out. That's a week to try the program, and it's very extensive. You need to check this thing out. You can explore the app, see what all is available. There's hundreds of workouts, and own your life, and it's completely free. It's absolutely quite fascinating, man. They did a hell of a job with this thing. Very user-friendly, but like I said, very extensive. Lots of stuff for beginners, intermediates, high-level people, anybody, sedentary people. DDP Yoga can work for all ages, weights, and fitness levels. It's a kick-ass cardio workout that will dramatically increase your flexibility and strengthen your core like never before, all with minimal joint impact, and that's absolutely true. The workout I went through was exactly that, and I enjoyed how I felt after that workout. Listen, just for listeners of the Steve Austin Show, you can save 20% off an annual membership for the DDP Yoga Now app, which now features DDPY Rebuild, and just go to ddpyoga.com/Austin to get started. And check this out, Dallas is making the rounds. He's going to be at the Corpus Christi Comic-Con June 23rd and June 24th, signing autographs, taking pictures, and check this out. The 8th annual DDP Yoga Retreat is coming at you July 7th through July 12th at the El Dorado Resort in the Riviera Maya, Mexico. That's 6 days and 6 nights in Cancun to enjoy DDP Yoga with amazing backdrop in paradise. Spaces are filling up. Go to ddpretreat.com for pricing and all the details.
The following program is a PodcastOne.com production. From Hollywood, California, by way of the Broken Skull Ranch, this is the Steve Austin Show.
Give me a hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Now, here's Steve Austin.
All right, everybody, welcome to Steve Austin Show. I am coming to you from the mean streets of Los Angeles, California on a Sunday afternoon, probably Tuesday if you downloaded this podcast on time. Nice, bright, sunny day over here in the mean streets of Los Angeles. Just got back from getting my workout in the gym. Everything's going good. Training is going awesome. Hell, speaking of training, I just signed up for the DDP Yoga app. Diamond Dallas Page came by a couple of days ago. We signed myself up for the app, watched a few videos on the app. It's a very extensive app with all kinds of cool features in it. And I'll tell you what, man, I've known Dallas Page a long time. He's one of my best friends, but it's straight up, man, the app is really badass. There's tons of features in there, so much information. I'm at the beginner level. Me and Dallas did a workout. It lasted about 45 minutes. And man, it was a really good feeling. You know, I keep talking about, hey man, it's like low impact cardio. It is, and it strengthens your core. I wasn't as bad off as I thought I was going to be, and it was an invigorating workout that also taxed me. And I didn't move, but I stayed in the same spot. We did a bunch of different stuff, but I stayed in the same spot, and it was low impact. So I dig it. I dug the workout. I've committed to the program. I'm going to give this a shot for 3 to 6 months, and I'm going to see. We took the app. I took before pictures, so we'll see as I continue with the process, my during and after photos. Well, I'm going to keep doing the damn thing, but I enjoyed the workout. So you can now put the name of Steve Austin along with that long list of names that DDP Yoga has helped from guys in the squared circle. And of course, you know, everyday normal human beings have benefited from doing DDP Yoga and committing to the program. I think Dallas is really onto something. I enjoyed myself, and it was a badass workout, so we'll see how I continue to improve. But anyway, Dallas will be on the show on Thursday. He came through town. John Morrison, Johnny Mundo was getting married, and he had come over here to see Johnny Mundo getting married. I had to crack Johnny Mundo. I said, dude, you didn't invite me to your wedding? Really? So anyway, he sent me a text message and said he was sorry. I was kidding you, Johnny. Congratulations. I'm really happy for you and your wife and hope you have a good vacation and a good honeymoon. But nonetheless, Dallas will be on the Thursday show, and we're going to talk about a bunch of things. We're going to talk a little bit about DDP yoga. This ain't no sales pitch. We're talking about the yoga workout, the DDP yoga workout that he put me through. We're going to talk about hyperbaric chambers, some of the things that he's getting into is try to hold back the hands of time, and just shooting the breeze and shooting bullshitting about pro wrestling. So it's always good when Dallas comes into town. When I first came to L.A. 15 years ago, I was shacking up with Dallas Page about 3 miles from my house, and it was like the odd couple living together. And Dallas is one of my good friends. I'll never forget each morning when I used to come to. I didn't wake up, I came to. I'd walk down the stairs, and there would be Dallas with his spectacles on, sitting behind a computer, working on yoga for regular guys, which would morph into DDPY. So, man, this guy's got his heart and soul into this thing, and a lot of money, and just a lot of bust-ass work and a lot of passion. And Dallas has helped all kinds of people, from athletes to military veterans to regular human beings with normal jobs. It's really badass. So Dallas is going to come by on Thursday. We'll be talking about that. But my guest today on the show is documentary filmmaker Chris Bell, old friend of mine. I've known him forever. And Chris Bell, you know, he suffered from opioid addiction. He was hooked on pain pills, had both hips replaced. Got off in a real bad way, and he made some really great documentaries. Bigger, Faster, Stronger. I love that. Trophy Kids I haven't seen yet. Prescription Thugs. I love that one. And his new documentary is called A Leap of Faith, and I watched this, and it was fascinating. And it comes into play because as Chris Bell comes out of rehab, and you'll hear in his story, you know, he got off all the pain pills, but he was still in pain. So what do you do if you're still in pain, but you're addicted to pain pills or you can't take pain medication? Turns out a friend of his named Horseshoe, dude who used to be with WWF way back in the day, smartened him up to kratom, Kratom. And I'll read you something off the Wikipedia page. And it says, I guess the active ingredient in kratom is Metrogina speciosa. Anyway, it's a tropical evergreen tree in the coffee family native to Southeast Asia. Kratom is indigenous to Thailand, Indonesia, Malaysia, Myanmar, and Papua New Guinea, where it has been used in traditional medicine since at least the 19th century. Kratom has opioid properties and some stimulant-like effects. Anyway, so we're going to get into a discussion about how this was able to help Chris get out of pain, talk about what the government's trying to do with it or against it, his experience with it, and I have a bottle sitting right here on my table. I'm not hurting right now, so I'm not taking any of this stuff, but it's highly interesting. And Chris, man, when he does his research on this stuff, he really goes full tilt. So there's a lot of information being discussed on the podcast today. We start off the podcast shooting the breeze about nutrition because Chris looked like $1,000,000, probably the best shape I've seen him in a long time. And I guess he had abandoned his keto diet and started eating what's called the carnivore diet. So we'll talk about that for about 25, 30 minutes, and then we're going to get into kratom and the good, the bad, the ugly, and what's going on with all that. But anyway, it's a great conversation. I think you're going to enjoy it. I'm going to keep this open kind of short because we talk pretty extensively about the carnivore diet, and then we get into the kratom stuff. But check this out, man. If you're trying to get off painkillers, or if you have an opioid addiction, then maybe this is a way out for you. Listen to the information in the podcast, and Chris will tell you where you can see A Leap of Faith. I think it's a fascinating documentary. I really enjoyed it, and it's chock full of information and cool stuff. So anyway, Chris Bell is my guest. But before we get to Chris and talk about kratom, we got to talk about the WWE Network for a minute. The WWE Network is an online video streaming service where you can stream every WWE pay-per-view live. You can watch more than 10,000 hours of video on demand. You can get a look behind the scenes with WWE's groundbreaking original series and documentaries. And you can access anywhere, anytime, and on any device, including game consoles, TVs, phones, tablets, and computers. You can watch it anywhere. And watch every single Stone Cold Stunner and Mudhole Stomping by yours truly, Stone Cold Steve Austin. And that's the bottom line. And check this out. Now through June 18th, we have a special offer just for listeners of the Steve Austin Show. New subscribers get a 2-month free trial when they sign up for WWE Network at WWENetwork.com/Austin. Your 2-month free trial includes WWE Money in the Bank on June 17th, featuring the Money in the Bank ladder match, plus the one and only Rowdy Ronda Rousey versus Nia Jax for the Raw Women's Championship, and WWE Extreme Rules on July 15th, where, for one night only, the WWE throws the rule book out the window and anything goes. So say, oh, hell yeah, and get on over to WWENetwork.com/Austin to start your 2-month free trial.
If you like sports podcasts, check out Podcast One Sports Now every Tuesday on Podcast One Sportsnet.
The Yankees and Red Sox are already fighting it out for first in the East, and it looks like they'll be the two teams going down the stretch.
Backed by AP's Sports Department, Jim Litke and Tim Dahlberg break down the latest news and events throughout the week, and podcasting from all major sporting events on site throughout the year.
Keep a close eye on LeBron because we're pretty sure there's some heroics left in this guy.
Check out Podcast One Sports Now at Podcast One Sportsnet and Apple Podcasts. Also, remember to rate and review.
This is the Steve Austin Show.
I'm sitting here with Chris Bell. We're fixing to talk about his documentary, A Leaf of Faith, talking about how you pronounce it, kratom or kratom?
Either way, kratom, tomato, it doesn't really matter. People say it differently, so there isn't actually like a specific pronunciation that I've heard. I've heard people say it.
I like kratom.
I say kratom too. It sounds better.
Yeah.
Kratom sounds crappy.
But we were sitting there BSing before we started rolling sound. I said, "Hey, is this worth recording?" Because you said that I said something that changed your life, and you were talking about the carnivore diet. So what did I say to change your life?
Yeah, you did. So we were talking about you were doing a ketogenic diet, and it was working quite good for you for a while. I think you were consulting a little bit with my brother, maybe. You had told me, my brother and I, we're not numbers people at all. We don't like numbers, and you hate that about us. I know that.
Well, I don't hate it. It's just hard to gauge exactly what you're eating. And I heard Dave Palumbo talking about me on another podcast because, like Triple H just says, just tell me what to eat and I'll eat it.
Yeah.
Me, I want to know because I'm a numbers guy.
Yeah, you're a numbers
guy. So keep going with your story.
Yeah,
but you're right. I got to know numbers.
Because you were a numbers guy, it stopped and made me, think like maybe I'm not getting enough protein in. I'm just doing this keto thing. And Stone Cold's telling me like, well, shit, I can't build any muscle, right? So I'm like, well, if he's not building any muscle, then maybe neither am I. And then I went to get my body fat checked. I had gained 2 pounds and I had gained 2% body fat just doing keto. So I was like, what the hell is going on here? This doesn't seem right. I must be losing muscle because I thought I was losing fat, right? And I weighed about 185 pounds and I didn't look that great, So, I was at the gym and my friend came up to me and said, hey, have you heard Joe Rogan's podcast with this Dr. Sean Baker? I'm like, no, I haven't heard it. He's like, he eats all meat. That's all he eats is red meat all day long. I'm like, that's really crazy because I used to do that actually back in 1994 when I came to Gold's Gym Venice. Mike O'Hearn and this guy Ron Fedko put me on that diet to lose weight for a powerlifting competition. However, that was 1994. There was no research on only eating red meat. Nobody ever really looked into it. Nobody even really ever thought about it. They just thought it was crazy. And so when Sean Baker got on the podcast with Rogan and explained it all and explained like, look, red meat has all the nutrients we need to survive except for maybe vitamin C. But when you're not eating carbohydrates, we don't really need much vitamin C at all, right? Also, the minerals and the vitamins and the nutrients that are in a piece of steak, we're going to absorb the vitamins and minerals from that better than we're going to absorb it from a plant because we are made to eat meat. That's part of our makeup. And so we let the animals eat it, break down all those vitamins, and then we eat it and we extract those vitamins out. So I never really thought of that ever. That never even crossed my mind, this whole thing about nutrient density. And what Dr. Baker is saying is stack your nutrients up front and your body won't want anything else. I'm like, all right, well, let me try it. But the big hook for me was beyond the whole like muscle building and fat loss thing. The big key for me was he said, it'll change your life as far as your arthritis goes. It really helps people with inflammation problems. I went and got a blood test and checked my C-reactive protein was off the charts. It was like 9.0. And the C-reactive protein is the inflammation in your body, the amount of inflammation in your body. Mine was like, where basically I got a letter from the blood testing company that said, you need to go see your doctor right away. Like these are your results, but you need to go see a doctor right away. This C-reactive protein could be really dangerous, right? So I did see a doctor right away. They had no idea what was really causing the inflammation or whatever. They're like, it might be just from arthritis or whatever. So nothing really came out of it. They just said, we got to change your diet. You can't be eating all this fat and all this other stuff. But I knew it wasn't the ketogenic diet per se causing the inflammation because I've done so much research on it. So I don't know what exactly caused that inflammation because on a blood test, there's a lot, like even working out hard could cause that inflammation, right off the bat. But anyway, I did a carnivore diet, which is it was an all red meat diet. I did that for 2 months. Went and I got my blood work done again, and my C-reactive protein was normal. It was like in the normal range.
In the zone. My
A1C was about as low as it goes. That's your cholesterol over time. My HDL cholesterol had gone up to like 79, which is good. And my triglycerides were 79, which is if you're a 1-to-1 ratio of HDL to your triglycerides, you're on target. You're healthy. Like that's a really good number to look at. And then the LDL cholesterol, which was really high and would cause most doctors to put me on a statin. When you talk to the doctors that really know, they'll tell you that number in isolation means nothing. And that's hard for me to swallow because I'm a guy like that too. I'm like, well, shit, man, a doctor's putting people on statins at over 200, like 305. That's a really high LDL. And they're like, dude, don't worry about it. You're so healthy, and that's a hard thing for us to swallow is we've been fed so much bad information for so long that even when we have a doctor telling us don't worry about it, I'm still worried about it,
So what did I say then? Was it with
what you said that triggered me was when you said that like, hey, I'm not getting enough protein. Like Dave Palumbo wants me to eat 275 grams of protein for you.
Well, yeah, because I was going standard keto. When I started doing all my research, I was going to standard ketogenic diet. And that was invented way back in the day to help kids with seizures.
Absolutely. And that's what I was doing.
Yeah.
But I was
so when I go
muscle.
standard, yeah, but dude, when I go standard, and I was too, because I was doing it by the book.
Yeah.
I was eating Jimmy Dean's, sausage for breakfast, bacon, and for your people that function off standard keto, that's fine and dandy. For me, it sounds great that you could eat bacon and sausage and cheese all day long in a perfect world when you're just, eating a normal diet. But then people say, okay, you can eat this and get lean off of it. It didn't work like that for me. So then that's when I started talking to Dave and went modified keto, so high protein. And then, we kept my fats around 100.
Trying to eat me over here.
I know. We kept my fats around 140, whereas before, they were about 270, 280.
Yeah.
And that was just ridiculous.
I think, so here's what I learned from you, from you telling me it didn't work for me, because all we're really trying to do, Mark and I, my brother, is really help people, right? And so we've been doing this for a long time, and it's easy for us to tell people like, oh, hey, just switch this and switch that, right? And so, because I wasn't able to help you, like, you're like, hey, this isn't working for me, right? So because we weren't able to like fix that, like, well, shit, we got to figure out other ways. Like, what are the other ways? And, just by exploring other ways is what I mean, changed my life, was like thinking outside the box. Like, just because these certain people say that this is the way that you do a ketogenic diet.
Right.
The other thing that Mark and I looked at is like none of them look good, the guys that I'm talking about. The guys that look good on the internet, you got guys like Thomas DeLauer. I don't know if you know who he is, but he's like a sort of keto guy. He was 305 pounds and now he looks like a shredded bodybuilder. And like, that's where I want to go. Like, I don't, it's longevity and health are important to me, but like, I also want to look good and feel good. I think that's really important. And I think that when you look good and feel good, it all sort of falls in line together,
So on a carnivore diet, you're eating what?
Red meat.
Every single meal? What do you eat for breakfast?
So there's a lot of different meats, right? So you can have, there's any kind of meat. So for hunters, they love it because they have all sorts of, you go hunting and you can eat whatever you kill.
Yeah, well, and most of that stuff's pretty lean.
Yeah, it's mostly pretty lean. But mainly it's red meat, like steak, like just steak from Costco. And I don't necessarily go grass-fed all the time. I try to I want all the animals treated humanely. Like that's a big deal for me. So I don't want things necessarily with, that aren't treated well, but just because you get something at Costco doesn't mean that they abuse the animals. And I think we have to sort of separate that a little bit too, and there are some sustainability issues with if everybody ate all meat, we're going to have some issues, right? But what are the odds of that going to happen?
But taking all that out of it, just speaking of the nutritional aspect of it, I don't want everybody on the podcast to beer. Speaking of the nutritional aspect of it, if you're eating all red meat, what kind of vegetables are you eating?
None.
Nothing.
No, because I just...
Dude, I got on that dude's Twitter site, Sean Baker.
Yeah.
And I was reading some of that stuff. Because I saw that clip.
The reason why isn't because you can't eat any vegetables. You can eat whatever you want. This is the beauty of carnivore. This is why I really like it. If, say I want to have like a burger and I want to have some coleslaw with it or something on the side, I can have that. It's not necessarily going to harm me. But what I'm saying is like we want to load up our body with the nutrients up front. So I eat kind of enough steak that I don't really want anything else, right? And so, but if I do, I'll have it. Like there was a period of about 2 months. I've been doing this for about 5 months now.
Well, you look great.
Thank you. And when I started doing it, after about a couple weeks, Stan Efferding, I was telling him like, dude, I don't know if I can make it any longer. He's like, throw in some fruit. You'll be fine. And I'm like, I can throw in fruit? He's like, absolutely. Like fruit has been shown to like lower weight, in all these different people, even if they're on a keto diet. Like it doesn't necessarily have to kick you out of ketosis. It just depends on, where you're at and stuff like that. So I started, I would measure my ketones and I would do it that way. So I would stay in ketosis above 0.5 on the ketone meter. And I would just I'd have like a couple pieces of fruit a day and I wouldn't necessarily come out of ketosis. But what's really fascinating to me is even on a carnivore diet where I'm not trying to hit ketosis, that's not the goal. You end up eating 70% fat and 30% protein just by default. Like it's almost, if you consume enough meat, you're going to basically get those ratios because, red meat has varying degrees. Like you got the really lean and then you got the not so lean. And by the time it all works out, I found that I'm still in ketosis.
Yeah, but you know what? When I was on a keto diet and I went down to Walgreens and got the keto sticks and, passed on one, and dude, nothing changed colors. Dude, and I got really lean. So I don't know that the keto sticks are bad. They were old, this, that, or whatever, but it's like dude said, he goes, Steve, most time the keto sticks won't change colors on people.
You got to test blood.
Well, yeah. Okay, because whatever, I got really lean.
Yeah, and I think that's what Mark and I are talking about more is like we've been talking about a lot. Maybe ketosis isn't as important as people want to put. They want to put this label on ketosis. But what I've found, like more than anything, and you can look, the proof is in the pudding. The proof is in the World's Strongest Man competition. If you look at what Stan Efferding with Hafthor Bjornsson, did you see that? Like, so Hafthor just won World's Strongest Man,
right?
And he's been knocking on Brian Shaw's door to try to do that for a really long time. And it was just awesome to see that he changed his diet. And that was like a key to him being so damn strong in that last competition. I think that's what put him over the edge was he completely changed the diet. He was kind of eating whatever he wanted and he switched from eating whatever he wanted to Stan's vertical diet. And Stan's vertical diet is basically, it's a really steak centric diet with carbs thrown in, So
how many carbs? Because Stan has world-class genetics.
I don't know if he has world-class genetics. He has world-class genetics for being ripped, but yeah. I don't know if you've seen the pictures of him when he was like 14, 15. He was thin as a rail. He was so skinny, so.
Well, that was unrealized potential.
Yeah.
I mean, look at a lot of kids at 14.
Yeah.
And look what they turn into.
Yeah. He didn't have like a big bone structure though or anything like that. So I don't know that his genetics were like necessarily like that,
Well, let's put it this way. His genetics are 10 times what mine are.
They're better than mine.
Yeah,
hell yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, the guy, he puts the time in the gym. He lives the lifestyle. I mean, he's religious with all that stuff. So, different.
Genetically, you're not that bad off either,
then
though.
On the vertical diet, explain the vertical diet then versus carnivore.
Okay, so a vertical diet is, the reason it's called a vertical diet is because Stan says that a horizontal diet's just like all over the place. It's like you eat whatever you want, whenever you want, right? A vertical methodical diet, he says like that's kind of like stacking nutrients, as I was talking about. So you have like your steak and you have your things that are nutrient dense, avocados and things that have a lot of nutrients. Eggs are a big one, and those things are like up front. And then the other things that he adds in is his carbohydrates recommendations are white rice. Now, brown rice is okay, but white rice seems to absorb and digest quicker and easier and better. And it doesn't have the fiber in it that, is going to slow down the digestion, and sweet potatoes and stuff like that. And then he recommends some vegetables for certain things. He also recommends a carrot a day. A carrot a day, he says, helps drop your estrogen levels. So I just do that anyway because I think, hey, why not? A carrot a day is a natural way to lower estrogen. I don't have to take anastrozole or some other, pharmaceutical if I can do it, naturally. And what Stan does, what I really like is, he researches a lot of people that have nothing to do with bodybuilding at all. They don't have their paws in the bodybuilding world trying to make people elite athletes. He's got his finger on the pulse of like the people that are, like the top sleep expert in the world. And he'll go and research the shit out of that person till he finds every secret and pulls every secret out of them, And I think that that's interesting because he's not really looking in the conventional bodybuilding world. So he's getting some answers that I've never heard before. And if I've never heard them, most people haven't either,
What I'm trying to do, because I've been such a person, like if you want to start talking diet, I want to know numbers. But I'm trying to because I'm so anal about it. Every time I bust out my food skill, my wife just rolls her eyes. We've been together for almost 15 years. So she knows me like back of her hand. But it's like, I would tell her, I said, you know what? I got in really good shape. And then, started drinking margaritas at the ranch and, kind of got, a little bit out of shape. And it was my vacation. But I told her, I said, you know what? I'm sick of doing these diets. I just want to be able to eat but know what not to eat, what to stay away from. So I can just if I'm putting the work in the gym, if I'm doing a little bit of cardio, whether it's sprints or steady state, whatever, just due to the fact that I'm doing my due diligence and just eating, but not weighing.
Yeah.
And by instinct, and because she always says, Steve, just eat what your body tells you to eat.
You can't do that. You have a hard time doing it.
I want to know. Because I'm looking in that mirror and I want to see, what the difference is.
Do you know a guy named Vince Gironda? Do you remember him?
Oh, of course I do.
Old school bodybuilder.
Yeah, I was just starting to do the 8x8 routine.
I remember, Mad Dog, he brought home this book, Unleashing the Wild Physique. Mm-hmm. And we read it and we're like, this guy's a total asshole. Like, he is so mean. Like, everything was about, like, you're too fat and this and that. Like, just the way he talked in it, we're like, this guy's ruthless. But he was ruthless for a reason. He had his shit together. He knew what was going on. So, Vince Gironda back in the day used to recommend all the bodybuilders eat steak and eggs. And that was mainly his thing, was like this, and that's very similar to the carnivore diet. The carnivore diet, you can have eggs. So I eat, red meat and eggs, and I eat some other kinds of meat, but it seems like red meat is kind of the cleanest, best, most nutrient dense, meat. Chicken doesn't really have any, not a whole lot of nutrients in it as compared to like red meat. Lamb is really good. I just don't happen to really normally eat that, so I'm not going to just go out of my way and eat it. The number one thing for nutrient density of all time, the top of the charts, number one superfood in the world. What do you think?
An almond.
Beef liver.
Beef liver. I love beef liver.
You do love it.
Oh, yeah. My wife makes fun all the time. People get disgusted at me.
Then you might just be prime candidate for carnivore, because organ meats are some of the most nutrient-dense things on the planet. All your vitamins and minerals in there. Like, if you look at a piece, I wish I had it with me, but if you look at, there's a book called Keto by Craig and Maria Emmerich, and in that book they have a nutrient density chart. And I actually want to like turn this into some sort of poster that people can just put on their wall or something, right? So I have this nutrient density chart, and they compare red meat to, like a piece of steak up against all these other different foods, right? And you'd have to have, I think it's like 3 pounds of wheat. You'd have to eat 3 pounds of wheat to get the nutrients in like 3/4 of a pound of meat, right? And so, that'd be like a lot of wheat. And then there's like a lot of other shit that comes along with that wheat that's bad for you, right? So that you don't want. So, you look at it from that standpoint, and you got to eat a lot less meat to get to the point, where you're going to build muscle and do things. And then when you look at this nutrient density chart, though, it starts with beef liver, and then it goes to beef, and then there's like a kind of a big drop off till you get to your vegetables and your so-called superfoods, like your quinoa and your avocados and your things like that they do have a lot of nutrients in them, and they are good for you, but they just don't have as much. So I guess Sean Baker's mentality is like, why mess with that stuff? It's got nothing in it, right? My mentality is like, hey, if you like it, eat it. And if you don't like it, then you probably don't need it,
What are you doing in the form of fiber?
We've been lied to about fiber, and that's a big issue. So, back in the day, when, there was a guy, this is like 1800s or maybe early 1900s or something. There was an English professor, and he went to Uganda, and he was teaching kids in Uganda, how to speak English, and, they go and they teach whatever, over there. And, he realized that, man, these kids go to the bathroom an awful lot. They are really good. I go like 3 times a day. They go take a shit. And to him, that was like, wow, what are they doing that our kids aren't doing? And these kids seem to be really healthy. And what are they eating? What's going on? And he found out that they were eating like a lot of fiber just because like where they're from and what they have access to, right? Really. And so that became a recommendation in England, that everybody eats 25 grams of fiber a day, right? But just out of nowhere, just because these kids were pooping more. And he thought that would help people in England be healthier. And then for some weird reason, like through the generations, that just, without any clinical trials or anything like real, that just got into our nutritional recommendations. And there hasn't really been a significant, fiber, hey, you need this. And I think that prebiotic fiber is, which feeds our gut microbiome, is important, and those things. And we can get those, like I use, some fermented foods. Fermented foods are really good for your gut microbiome. So like sometimes I'll have some sauerkraut with my meat, which just tastes good.
Right.
Anyway, so I think like, what I want to do is educate people on the foods, like you said. What's good for you? What are the things I can eat and put in my body that will fuel it, not make me fat, and I kind of don't have to worry about how much I eat of it. And that's sort of what we're getting towards. You're always going to have to worry about how much you eat, right? Like there's always going to be a point where you eat too much and you get fat, right? But we're trying to figure out like, how do you do it so you don't have to worry that much about it?
Are you eating any kind of carbs other than a couple of green things over here and there, or some sauerkraut?
Not really, but also
you're not eating any, like you're probably not doing white rice. You're not doing sweet potatoes.
No, but just to be fully transparent, there's some days where you're like, you know what? I just want some cookies. So I walk over to Whole Foods and I'll grab 10 cookies. But I used to go and buy, we come from a fat family. And Mark and I used to go to the stores on weekends because we used to do this keto where you do keto for like 5 days. And then on the weekends, you just go crazy, right? And we used to recommend
I was just fixing to start doing that. So go ahead.
We would recommend it to people all the time.
Yeah.
But when you think about it, and you learn about it more and you realize like that eating gluten, that can sit in your system for like up to 6 months. You're like, well, why even, and that sounds crazy. Like, you're not going to feel like, oh man, I got this gluten sensitivity issue 6 months later. Like, I shouldn't eat that gluten 6 months ago.
Yeah.
But you know how things are cumulative over time.
Right.
And so just to even know that it stays in your system, well, I don't want it in my system. So I'm going to remove it and not really do the cheat days. But what I've also found is that there's a lot of great people right now making a lot of great keto products. So it used to be like, man, I can't go keto because then I can't have my cheesecake and I can't have my pizza and I can't have my ice cream. Well, guess what? There's keto pizza, cheesecake, and ice cream that tastes to me just as good as the real thing. Obviously, it's different, a little bit different. The ice cream doesn't taste like Ben and Jerry's, but it tastes like, a pretty good vanilla ice cream, so there's definitely, some sacrifices you make. Like you're not going to, but I don't look at it as a sacrifice. I look at it as like trading and harm reduction.
How long have you been on a carnivore diet?
Right now it's 5 months.
How you feel?
I feel really good.
You don't have any cravings other than every now and then 10 cookies or whatever?
No, not really. No, there's not like a time where I'm like, oh, you know what? I really want to cheat on the diet. I also think that, I was on keto for like a year. I think being on keto for like a year before that really, it just really, I've changed my relationship with food. Growing up in a family that's overweight and we were just always, like food would solve our problems. It was always easy to just go grab something to eat, or, you come home, mom's like, oh, you don't feel good? Here, have this, and whatever. And we're just used to that kind of thing. So our relationship with food is bad. And then we went to go see Rob Wolf, who I respect a ton. And Rob was like, why do you have a relationship with food? It's just an inanimate object. Like, he kind of put it in those terms to me.
Interesting.
Like, you're friends with food? Like, it's just a thing, And I'm like, yeah, it is just a thing. It can't do anything to me. Like, I'm in control of it, right? But it's really weird when you flip the script on your hunger. Hunger changes everything. When you're hungry, that's when the diet goes out the window. On this carnivore diet, the thing is, by not being hungry, you're now in control all the time. That's the difference, I think. Like, you say, like, do you crave anything? It's like, no, because I'm in control.
And did you start that after you heard the Sean Becker guy?
Yeah, I started it. Actually, I heard him, and I was going to go interview him. Mark and I are putting together a documentary on nutrition, trying to find some common facts that can help everybody. And in doing that, I called up Sean Baker and said, I want to interview you. And he said, well, you should really give this a shot first, before you talk to me. And I said, well, how about we interview in like 2 weeks? I'll try it for 2 weeks. So here I am 5 months later, and I'm talking to Sean every day now because, he's become like a mentor to me, where I need answers, and I can call a doctor, a medical doctor,
Where's he based out of?
He's in Orange County. But I can get him.
How old is he?
He's 50.
Okay.
Check this out. He's 50. He deadlifts, I think he deadlifted over 700.
He's got some traps on. Looks like he puts in his time.
And no drugs, no steroids. Right. He's a drug-free athlete, and he's broken the world record in indoor rowing, which is like the rowing machine.
Right.
He did that faster than anybody in the world over 50.
How long has he been doing the carnivore diet?
He's been doing it about 1.5 years now. And he's also got a podcast with Zach Bitter. Do you know who Zach Bitter is? Mm-mm. So Zach Bitter is a dude that does like a keto/carnivore diet, and he is a runner, and he ran 100 miles at a pace of 7 minutes a mile. And he did it, without carbs. So I think like that's kind of right. Dudes like that are kind of crazy. But he's showing like, hey, maybe you don't need carbohydrate to fuel, all this run. Like, fat's got more calories, per gram. So why not use fat as the fuel? And it seems to work for guys like that,
All right, let's take a quick pause for the calls with Chris Bell and give big ups to TrueCar. Hey man, here's a couple of useful tips you might not be aware of. If you put your floor mat under your tires in the winter, it can help to get your car out of the snow. Removing excess weight from your car will improve gas mileage. Keeping a Dixie cup of water in your car to put your cigarettes in is a better option than throwing them out the window. Are you ready for one more tip you might not know about? TrueCar also helps people get used cars. That's right, TrueCar ain't just for buying new cars. With their certified dealer network and nationwide inventory of nearly 1 million used cars, you'll enjoy real pricing on actual inventory and a simpler buying experience, whether you buy new or used. And with TrueCar, users can see what others paid, so they know if they're getting a good deal before buying. They're also more likely to enjoy a faster buying experience by connecting with TrueCar certified dealers. When you're ready to buy a new or used car, check out TrueCar and enjoy a more confident car buying experience. Some features not available in all states. You're also going to need car insurance for that new vehicle. Go to geico.com, and in 15 minutes, you could be saving 15% or more on car insurance. That's right. Save hundreds of dollars on car insurance at geico.com. Extra money in your pocket? It may just be the most rewarding thing you do today. All right, faithful listeners of the Steve Austin Show, we have a mission for you. To help our podcast stay free to download with minimal ads, we would appreciate your participation in a PodcastOne survey. The responses will help align the appropriate advertisers to our show and to you, the audience. The survey is short. It will take no more than 5 minutes of your day. Either go to podcastone.com/mysurvey or visit PodcastOne. That's podcastone.com and click on the survey banner. This survey will go a long way in making the Steve Austin Show even better, and that's the bottom line, because I said so. Oh, and one more thing. Thank you. All right, before we get to the rest of my conversation with Chris Bell, talking about kratom, the carnivore diet, keto, all kinds of stuff, let's talk about TheraWorks for a minute. If you're one of the millions of Americans who suffers from muscle cramps in your legs and feet, relief is finally in sight. TheraWorks Relief is a topical foam that's clinically proven to relieve muscle cramps fast, and with daily use, TheraWorks Relief can even prevent muscle cramps before they start. The results speak for themselves. TheraWorks Relief is the real deal. TheraWorks Relief is a life-changing product, and best of all, you don't even need a prescription. It only takes minutes to apply, absorbs quickly, and it really works. Get TheraWorks Relief today at select CVS, Rite Aid, and Walgreens pharmacies, or at TheraWorksRelief.com. That's TheraWorks Relief.com.
This is the Steve Austin Show.
Well, let's shift gears, man. Let's talk about your documentary.
Hell yeah.
It's called A Leaf of Faith.
A Leaf of Faith. And a
Go
big
ahead.
part of why I started all this is to get out of pain. So it's not to get abs, at 45 years old. It wasn't the intention. But it's a side effect of what I'm doing and doing things the right way. So initially, coming off a double hip replacement surgery and a drug addiction, I was just kind of looking for a way to get out of pain. And so that's where I started. I found a former pro wrestler, guy who used to work with you, Luther Reigns, aka Horseshoe. He was a guy who was heavy into the prescription drugs.
Man, I thought that guy was going to have a real good future in the wrestling business. Good look, great size.
He was
athletic ability.
amazing on the mic.
Yeah.
He was great, right? And his problem was himself, and he was the first person to admit it. Like, he was in his own way, in that respect, because he definitely had all the makings of a huge superstar. And so he was doing like 90 pain pills a day.
And see, I was watching him in a documentary, and you made Bigger, Faster, Stronger. You made Trophy Kids. You made Prescription Thugs, and now we're at Leaf of Faith. Now you're working on another one.
Yep.
And so you do great work. You do great research. And so and watching, when you say those numbers again, it's so hard for me to fathom how many painkillers that dude was taking. It's absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah. And Kurt Angle was up there. He was Kurt Angle's bodyguard on TV, and Kurt was up there in the numbers too. I think he was up around like 65 or 70, he said. And I'm just so glad to see Kurt Angle get sober and be back on TV again. It's amazing.
Dude, what were you up to as far as the number goes?
25, 30.
Dude, how buzzed would you be? Because, like my thing, and I think everybody kind of knows, my story. I was a drinking guy.
Yeah.
Love my beer, love my whiskey, vodka, whatever. I can certainly name every damn spirit there is.
Yeah.
I like to drink. But I've had, my share of pain pills here and there when I got injured. But then, back in the day, you'd take them, when you were injured. But also, hey, man, with a pot of coffee or 2 pots of coffee, pot 2 bikes or 2 perks, kind of get your day going.
Yeah.
Or, maybe something a little pick me up in the middle of the day. So, I probably never took over 6-8 pain pills a day ever, because that just wasn't how I rolled. So when you say you were at the 30 range, dude, are you buzzed? Are you clenching your teeth the whole damn day? What's up with that?
not at all, because what happened to me was I had this double hip replacement surgery.
Yep.
And right after the surgery, they tell you to take 2 pills every 4 hours, right? And so you do that and you just get used to it, right? And then after taking 2 pills every 4 hours, after about the first 2 weeks, it just doesn't work anymore. So then you need 4 pills, every.
When you're saying it doesn't work anymore, you're saying you're getting hooked.
You get back in pain, right? So you're like, oh, I need more. And you just increasingly take more until you're, up to like 30 a day. And then what happens is the doctor cuts you off. Because the doctor's like, no, you're not supposed to be taking this many. And I go back to the doctor and I say, but doc, I'm in a ton of pain. And he's like, no, you're not. I fixed you. And my doctor actually took a box of tissues that was sitting on his counter, and he dropped it on the ground. And he said, pick that up. And I got up and I slowly bent down, picked it up. And he's like, see, you're fine. And I'm like, no, that hurt a lot. And he's like, well, you're using the word debilitating. You're saying it's debilitating. That means you can't do something. I'm like, look, I can't do anything. Like everything hurts, and I'm trying to tell the doctor this, and they just don't care. Like that's the bottom line. It's like my doctor just didn't give a shit. He was like, I fixed you. I did the surgery. You're done. You're lying to me. You have drug seeking behavior, and get out of my office, basically, is what they tell you. But I wasn't that guy. I was never that guy. And so
where was the pain coming from?
Because they botched the surgery. And that's another thing. It's like this doctor, he didn't know it, but when they installed the parts were bad. So they had to go in and replace them like 2 years later. So for 2 years, I was like suffering in pain, addicted to drugs, and then after I had my second surgery, a month after the second surgery, that's when Mad Dog died. And like, the thing is, like, when Mad Dog died, it was like, okay, just give up. Who cares? You know what I mean? Like, that's just how my attitude was. I was like, I was hooked on drugs. I'm like, let's just keep, you would think that you would stop.
Right.
But I was like, let's just keep rolling. And it just got worse and worse, you know?
So how bad off was Mad Dog? Because, you know, you referenced him, you know, in the documentary again, you know, A Leap of Faith. What was he up to? What was his demise?
Mad Dog's biggest problem was mental health issues that were undiagnosed, and no one ever like stopped to fix it, because I think we looked down on mental health issues. He really was mentally ill. That's the bottom line. He was at a point where, whether it was caused by drugs or it was caused by you know, something else, he had a bipolar issue, which I know is like super overdiagnosed. But when Mad Dog would strike out in baseball when he was a little kid, he would throw the bat. He would yell he'd want to fight the other coach. You know, like, that's not normal kid behavior. And he was always kind of super passionate about everything. And just as much as he would get mad at stuff, he loved you just as much. You know what I mean? Like, if somebody Mad Dog has knocked out a lot of people for me, you know, like, what I didn't even ask him to. It just happens, you know? And, he was like a loving, great guy that loved hard and lived hard. And I think that, you know, his demise was the fact that, no one ever stopped and said, you know, we have to treat this mental illness before we can move on with anything else you're doing.
So Mad Dog died, was it when you were working on Prescription Thugs?
He died right after we finished Bigger, Stronger, Faster, about 9 months after that.
Heading into...
I just started on Trophy Kids at that point. Trophy Kids, yeah.
Because, so you were pretty bad off then.
I was really bad. I was really bad off, but nobody really knew it. You know, and that was the thing. I guess, I don't think I was, looking back on it and looking back through my movies, I looked like shit. And I don't know why nobody told me, you know. But I wish they would have, you know. And it's just, I think, you know, people have respect for you or whatever. They're not going to come up and be like, hey, you're messed up. So a lot of people, I guess, don't want to tell you, but I wish somebody told me sooner.
So you get that double hip replacement. You're on your pain meds. It shows you walking in the hospital.
Yeah.
You got your little walker. But, you know, and then you spent 90 days in Cliffside.
Yeah.
And you get clean.
Yep.
But you're still in pain. So you're looking for a solution.
Exactly.
So you find kratom, and it's because Horseshoe gave you a call.
Yeah. So Horseshoe was the one who first called me up and said, like, hey, man, have you tried kratom, right? Now, you have a guy going from 90 pain pills a day to using a natural supplement. And I'm like, come on, dude. You're like... That's
just like the bullshit meter goes way
bullshit meter goes way off the chart. And before that, Horseshoe was making a ton of money. He's a hustler, man. He just knows how to make money. And he's awesome at it. And so... whenever, like, he just always, he's like a cat. He always lands on his feet, right? So anytime, like, one thing would mess up, he'd fall into something else.
Right.
So he had fallen into the spice business. And he was making crazy amounts of, like, the amount of money he was telling me he was making was insane.
Right.
And they were selling this spice, which is a fake marijuana. It was it's a chemically made, you know, thing, right? And they would sell it in these smoke shops. But spice was dangerous, and it was like hurting people, and it wasn't killing people, I don't think, but people were getting sick from it and stuff like that. It's not a good thing at all. And, I remember, like, that when that business ended, he was like, shit, what am I going to do now? Oh, now I'm going to sell kratom. So I'm like, oh, another bullshit thing that you're going to sell. So when he brought it to me, you know, my bullshit meter was red, you know, and I was like, there's no way this can be any good. But I tried it myself, and, about half an hour later, all the aches and pains that I had from my osteoarthritis and my hip replacements just went away. And I was like, wait a second, did that actually really work? There's no way that it really worked. So over the course, it took about 3 months for me to play around with dosing, to feel it out. Some days it worked better than others, you know, and there's reasons for that, which we can get into, but like, it took me a while. It wasn't like something where I just grabbed it and said, this is amazing. And cause I've given it to people. I've given it to you. I've given it to a lot of people. Some people say it doesn't do anything for them. Some people will say it's a miracle, right? And that's why we have to all try things to see if they work for us or not, you know? And also messing around with the dose. Some people take like one pill and they're like, well, I didn't feel anything. But I kind of take a high dose of kratom because I'm taking it for pain. So I take like 10 capsules. Now, I don't recommend that to people, but this is a plant. You know, it's a little bit different than taking a drug and saying, hey, take a lot of this drug. It's a plan. We know that, you know, some people can handle a little bit more. Some people can handle a little bit less. I just happen to take a pretty good dose of it for pain relief, and it seems to work really well. My whole mission with this was just like, I saw too many people die from opioids. You know, we see it all the time. While I was making this movie, my friend Jeff, who worked at Gold's Gym with me for a long time, he's in Bigger, Stronger, Faster. He's got a little cameo. Right down the street from here, he jumped off the roof of his building on opioids and killed himself while making this movie. You know, and to me, like, it's a good friend of mine, like a really good friend, like somebody I'm close with. And just to see that again, to go like, man, like this is still going on, even while I'm making this movie, even though I'm trying to help people, even though my friend knew about kratom, he decided not to go that route, you know? And I'm like, man, like people are just dropping like flies. We have to do something about it. And that's what inspired me to make the documentary.
Well, dude, you were saying, well, in the documentary, I guess, 242 people a day die in America from an overdose?
Yeah, it's something ridiculous number like that. And there's like they say a 9/11 scale, you know, tragedy every 3 weeks in America, because that's how many people die of opioids, right? So we're losing like 50,000 people a year to opioids, and we're losing like 16,000 people a year due to Advil and Tylenol. So, you know, kratom has not been shown to kill anybody. So why not explore it? You know, I really want more research to be done on this plant.
Explain the Tylenol Advil thing, because I thought that was very interesting. The NSAIDs.
Yeah, so NSAIDs are non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, which really wreak havoc on your gut microbiome, which we're finding out is more and more important. What goes on in your stomach. It will kill like a lot, you know, it basically screws up that bacteria, but also, they found that it causes fertility issues. Well, do you call it fertility issues if it's for men? It's like I couldn't get somebody pregnant, right? You know, if I'm taking Advil or whatever, right? But I don't know how it affects the woman. But they say for like young males, it affects their sex drive and their testicles. I don't know exactly what it does, but I know that it's not good. It makes you so you can't have babies. Oh, it could. I'm not saying it does that to everybody. The other thing that's really interesting about the Advil and Tylenol, it wrecks the gut and it kills the bacteria, and it does something else that I'm not remembering right now that's really bad.
Kidneys.
Oh, well, yeah, that's exactly right. So the number one reason why I was, when I made the movie, a big reason why I decided to make the movie was because I was on Dr. Drew's podcast also. Right. And Dr. Drew had told me, like, you know, if you take Advil and Tylenol in combination, it's actually better than an opioid. Like in a study, they did a study, and patients preferred this over opioids for pain relief. But he didn't really say much more about it. And I was like, oh, that's cool. You know, and so I went and researched it myself. Sure enough, Dr. Drew, he's not going to lie to me. He's right. It's right there in black and white that people preferred it over opioids. So I'm like, well, could be a solution for me. And then after finding out the information on the Advil and Tylenol,
long-term heavy-duty use.
Sure, long-term heavy-duty use. You know the bodybuilder Tom Prince?
Yes.
Tom Prince was a pro bodybuilder, one of the best physiques ever, had a kidney transplant. And he'll tell you it's from taking non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs after he was addicted to Nubain for a while. So when he got off of Nubain, he was taking about 20 ibuprofen a day, and that's what sort of killed his kidneys, you know. And so I think that that's a lesson to be learned, you know. And there's actually 2 other guys in Gold's Gym that have the same issue, you know. Everybody wants to go like, oh, it's steroids. And you're like, well, look, steroids definitely played a role, right? Like if you're taking you're abusing steroids, of course that plays a role in whatever. You can have an organ transplant. I'm sure it played some role. I'm not going to sit here and say it didn't do anything, but the cause of it really is the Advil.
Dude, that was one of the things when when you mentioned that I guess 65 wrestlers under the age of 50 have passed.
Yep.
And you were talking about the horseshoe, and he goes, well, it ain't steroids. It's a combination, or it's a bad combination, or the wrong combination of alcohol, coke, painkillers. And
that's probably what you've seen as well, right?
Oh, yeah.
In your experience?
Yeah, dude, it wasn't the steroids.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was anything but. Maybe they could have helped in a few cases, and maybe helped is the wrong word, but I mean contributed. But for the most part, I would agree with that statement.
I remember what I was going to say that I forgot, and this is huge. So Advil, ibuprofen, is a what's called a COX-2 inhibitor, and that is very important to know because if you're on Advil and Tylenol or Advil, ibuprofen, this is just ibuprofen, long-term use, they say that you double your risk for heart attack or stroke. Why do you want to be on that? You know what I mean?
Right.
And so we're looking at something like kratom, and we've been looking at kratom for things like this, like does it affect your liver and your kidneys? And so far we haven't found any sort of toxicity with kratom.
Take me back to the 90 days at rehab, because I used to live in Malibu, and I didn't know that all those rehab places were just all over
about
the place
35 of them on a mountain.
There's one right down the street from here that was kayfabe. No one really knew about it, but I just found out about it. What are they teaching you in there? What are they doing with you in there? Is it time away from the substance?
I don't know. Do you watch John Oliver?
No.
John Oliver just sort of killed rehabs the other day, but
What happened?
Well, I mean, he just did. He does a story. He did a story on it, and he basically was like, "Hey, like rehab's a scam." And I would have to agree that a huge part of rehab is a big scam. It's a big money making insurance, thing. There's a lot of people out there really trying to help people, and there's a lot of really great centers. Like the place I went to, Cliffside, Malibu, it's a great place. But if you're gonna pay to go there, they were talking on John Oliver, it's $73,000 a month. Right. Luckily, I have a friend there. I got helped out. Like I was really blessed. I was really lucky. I didn't have to pay, but if I had to pay, I wouldn't be sitting here right now. I'd be dead. And I'm serious when I say that, because my parents at the time couldn't afford to put me through anything. Mark was just starting to make his money. He actually was the one that put me in rehab in the first place. He paid for the first rehab I went to, and I'm very grateful for that. But it's like, I think if I didn't get helped out, I might not be here, and so when you look at rehab and what are they teaching you, there's a lot of great things that you learn, but there's nothing that you learn in rehab that you won't learn in AA. And AA is absolutely free. You can walk in any day, anytime. The only thing I'd say, the only real advantage of going to rehab and being in a rehab facility is being institutionalized. And that's what I needed. And I think a lot of people need that. You had to lock me up and you had to embarrass me. Like I needed to be humbled, And it's, if you can get away with it every day, like, I can get away with drink. Like, hey, I got away with it again today, and like, that's how I'd make it through every day. Like, I got away. Nobody knew, but then once people find out and you're found out, you're like, I wanted to get caught.
Right.
My girlfriend at the time, Lauren, she was the one that called my brother and said, hey, your brother needs help. But I feel like I didn't do it on purpose, but I felt like I had told her, hey, I'm going to stop drinking for you. Cause I had just met her. Like, I'm going to stop drinking and I'm going to get over this. And then 7 days went by. I made it 7 days. And the seventh day I decided to celebrate. And that's when I got really messed up. And she called my brother and I went to rehab, cause I realized.
But you turned to the alcohol after you got off the painkillers, right?
That's the thing is like, I think that
you traded one for another.
And I think that that's very common. I think that what happens is like, once you're in pain, you're like, well, I'm in pain. I need something, right? You're always thinking, I need something. And I had that attitude that I need something. And I think a good thing was I got out of pain. I got off of alcohol for like quite a long time, alcohol and pills for quite a long time. And then like a good solid 3 years into sobriety, I found kratom. So I didn't find kratom like after, you know what I mean? Like it wasn't like one to another to another. Right. It was like one to another. Well, now I'm in pain. And then, then I found kratom when I needed it down the road a little bit. I don't really like the idea. Like people use kratom. You'll hear it. People tell me every day. They send me emails and texts. Like they use it to get off of opioids. They use it to get off of heroin. And I think that that's great that it can do that. But we are nowhere near the amount of research we need for that to be like a legitimate drug to do that. Like I said, it varies in its potency because it is a plant, right? So, and if you have a bottle, every pill is not going to be the same exact dose. It hasn't been standardized. It's not a chemical. So there's advantages of it being a plant is that it's all natural and it does less to damage your body. But the other side of that is because it's not standardized, it didn't go through some sort of chemical process. We don't know the exact dose of each pill, and that could become an issue when you're treating somebody for a medical issue.
Dude, I don't remember what happened because, remember when you gave me this bottle right here, kratom? It was, a year ago?
Maybe
a year and a half, a year.
Oh, well,
it's been a while. But then I guess maybe this is when that kid in Florida jumped off the bridge or something. I just started hearing, hey, there's some people dying, or kratom was attached to it. Well, I didn't know that there was a whole string of other drugs with the kratom. So it scared me so much that I was like, well, I'm not really in any pain right now, so I don't want to take one of these. I just popped a seal on this just a while ago. I haven't taken one yet, but they'd scared me after you'd given them to me, and I was like, okay, well, I'm good. But in looking at the documentary and listening to everybody, I mean, and especially the dude from Malaysia. This stuff is from what, Southeast Asia?
Yeah. And the guy from Malaysia is like, they take it every day, and old people take it and whatever. And what's really fascinating to me is like my all-time hero besides Stone Cold Steve Austin is Sylvester Stallone. He's like the guy I've always looked up to him, man. I was like, you know what? Not only did he make Rocky, which is my favorite movie, and not only did he star in it, he wrote it, and he's a badass. And so I got a phone call a couple months ago, and it was, hey, yo, it's Sylvester Stallone. I'm like, what the, like, this is amazing. He's like, I got your number from my brother. So his brother Frank is a friend of mine. He trains at Gold's all the time. And, he wanted to know about kratom. So I got him kratom. We overnighted it. And we were like so pumped. We're like, this is it. Kratom's going to take off. It's going to go through the roof. He's about to go shoot Drago, the movie with Drago, the, Creed 2. So I'm all excited about it. He loved it for like 2 weeks. And then he called me and he said, hey, I've been reading on the internet and I see all these things and people, he's like, I can't mess with it, And I'm like, hey, you're going to believe all that stuff, and it's interesting because we all want to see things in like medical, we want to see a study. Well, where's the study? I don't know. I did an interview with Charles Poliquin the other day, and I just think he has a really fascinating view on it. He was talking about, a training method that he's been doing since 1975, and a study just came out like last year about it. And he's like, was I going to wait from 1975 until last year to utilize that training method? Hell no. I'm going to, I'm on the cutting edge. And I kind of feel the same way about kratom. Like, look, it's been used for 200 years in Thailand and people aren't dying. So I know it's safe enough for that. I don't have time. I'm not going to wait until all the studies come out to see if this is good for me. It makes me feel great. I'm out of pain. So to me, that's the end of story, So how many of these things do you have to eat a day to stay copacetic or pain free? I mean, you're not getting a buzz off of it, right? Because if you're taking 1 or 2 capsules, from what I've gathered, doing my research on a computer and then watching the documentary, which was awesome, and I recommend everybody check it out. There can be like maybe a slight bit of mood enhancement. There's definitely a slight buzz to it.
So, I mean, I
like that.
Well, yeah, I get that, but I mean, is that part of it, or are you just going for the pain block?
Well, I think it is part of it. I think a lot of us are walking around depressed and sad, and
why is that?
I don't know, but I think a lot of I just think there's a lot of issues where, like, I just remember when I was a kid, I remember I used to hear the word stress. I used to be like stress, like who cares about that? Now you got like 10-year-old kids talking about they're stressed out. I'm like, what do you mean you're stressed out? You're 10. You know what I mean? Like, and so I
you're
think
not allowed to be stressed out until you're 25.
Yeah, like our society has gotten like I feel that I don't know, man. Maybe it's because of social media, whatever. I feel like the connections aren't there as much as they used to be for kids. Like, maybe that's it. I don't know. But I feel like we have a lot of people isolating, and we have a lot of people using drugs to self-medicate. And I think it's pretty obvious that it's because people aren't happy. And so if you can take something that makes you happy, I think we go a long way into solving a lot of problems. A lot of other problems. A lot of people use this. A lot of veterans use it for PTSD, and I think that's an amazing application.
The one guy had an amazing story. The guy that had his hand pulverized, and you spent some time with him.
That's my buddy Drew Turner, and Drew Turner, he has so Drew Turner is an interesting story. He has a disease called Mage syndrome, and Mage syndrome makes your face twitch and stuff. So he's got these.
It's almost like a Tourette syndrome for the face.
And so he makes all these crazy like faces. Mm-hmm. He takes kratom and it completely goes away. That to me is insane. Yeah. And that to me just shows like if you're the FDA or the DEA who's trying to schedule this and make it a Schedule 1 drug, all you need to do is look at that one case, because the DEA and the FDA will say, hey, if it's used for medical purposes for even one person, that could be a legitimate medical use, right? So here's one person, we're showing it works, like obviously you can't go, okay, let's make it legal, but it's something that they could study it for. You definitely have cause and effect. Like you can see it. The kid takes it and his shakes go away, you know?
Well, another interesting case was the guy from the gym. I think his name was Tony, and you went to his mother's house, and she was 89.
Yep.
And you call her spring chicken. But the kratom really helped her.
She's amazing. And she's on all these pills. She was taking Vicodin and Norcos and stuff like that. And I don't know, just to see, you know, an older woman taking it, to me, I was so shocked. Because I was like, oh, no, like older people take this. They're probably scared of it, right? Or, you know, also like just thinking, like if I'm going to give it to my mom, I want to make sure it's.
What's funny because your mom's skeptical about taking it.
Well, my mom just had back surgery. She's doing great. She's walking and stuff like that. She just had back surgery. She's been debilitated for a long time. She walks with a walker, and she was dragging her foot the whole time. She had a nerve that was entrapped. And I get it. Like when the doctor said, like, you have a trapped nerve, my mom's like, well, I need to get surgery, and then I'll see if the kratom helps me like later, you know, because she's like, I'm just going to be masking it now. Right. And she's right, but it could have helped her get out of pain for a while. But we're going to try it with her coming up, I think, because now that she got the main problem fixed, I think all the residual pain, she can be helped with kratom. But she definitely is skeptical, and she's scared because a doctor didn't give it to her.
Yeah, but she's seen what it's done for you, and also your dad's taking it, two pills 2 times a day to help him. What was he suffering from?
My dad had everything: double hip replacement surgery, double knee replacement surgery. Something
with it. I think he pulled his groin, he had some hamstring, and then all of a sudden he was just
he also spent 80 days in the hospital a couple of years ago. He had a hole in his intestine, intestinal permeability. He had like a hole.
Right.
And it almost killed him. You know.
Did you turn him on to kratom?
Yeah. When I started taking it, and I said, "Hey, this might help you with your pain," you know.
Now, what do you say with in response to that, due to the issues that you had with painkillers? Now, all of a sudden, here you are.
That's a weird thing. That the thing in the beginning was, "Hey, Dad, I'm going to tell you about this. I'm taking this. I hope you can understand it." And now that's where we started.
Right.
You know, and I explained it all to him. And he also met a friend of mine who owns a kratom company and sells it and had a lot of knowledge of it, and explained to him the whole deal behind it. And I mean, my dad is pretty open-minded when it comes to stuff like that.
The dude down in Vegas with the kratom company.
Kelly Dunn.
On the table right now.
Yep.
Real interesting guy.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, you said they were selling like 2,500 keys a month? Yeah,
he does really well with it. You know, the thing was, he owned smoke shops in Vegas,
right?
And he talks about it. He had a boat accident, and he cracked like side of his face, and he has this kratom, and he's standing there, and he's like, dude, I had kratom sitting on my shelf for a year. Right in front of me every day, and I'm running a smoke shop. I'm the guy behind the counter. It's my shop. I own it. And I'm telling people, yeah, try kratom. It's great for pain. Never tried it. And I thought it was another bullshit product. Here's the guy that owns the company, right? So he had that boat accident, whatever, and he's standing around. He's like, man, I'm just in a lot of pain. I'm going to try this kratom. And he took the kratom, and he felt great. And he's like, I can sell the shit out of this. I'm standing right behind the counter, and I could sell the shit out of this. So he started to, and he was, because he had the issue himself, it was easy for him to say, hey, try this. You know, you get excited. When I get excited about it, I try to calm myself down about it, because I know that it doesn't work for everybody the same way it works for me. But, you know, it is very valuable for a lot of people. And so, he had it sitting right there, and he started selling it so fast that he just decided to close up shop and to start selling kratom. Just go into that full time. So he had all these connections in the world of the smoke shops in Vegas, which are kind of like the smoke shops are kind of like anything goes. You walk in and they sell bongs, they sell dildos, so whatever you want, you know what I mean? And the problem with that is that that's not where we go to buy our supplements. You know, you're into bodybuilding, you don't go to a smoke shop, do you? You know, to buy supplements. No, you go. So we're trying to move this out of the smoke shops, out of the Wild West, and into a legitimate, you know, health food stores, and get it more into the, you know, the general population. What's it take to do that? Because just like in Bigger, Stronger, Faster, when you made the supplements on your in your kitchen, it's exactly what's going on in the kratom world, though. People are doing that. They're making. But is Big Pharma going to shut it down just because they can't patent it? I mean, because where does it stand right now? Because you went on Rogan's podcast, they got a bunch of signatures. You went to the Kratom March in D.C. Mm-hmm. How was that? The Kratom March was pretty cool. There's not a whole lot of support for it now, so it's kind of like Best in Show. You ever seen that movie with it's kind of like that, where you go to like this, like, yeah, we're going to go march on Washington. You show up and there's like, you know, 300 people there, which is a pretty good turnout. Not bad, but I mean, it's not like the Women's March. We had the March on Washington, and it was just good because out of that came like getting to meet a lot of other people in the kratom community that it was in DC. So a lot of East Coast people, and we were able to like link up with some other people trying to keep it legal. And the big thing now is just sort of like trying to get all the Congress people on board with it. And a lot of people understand it, like the Congressman Mark Pocan in the movie.
He did, but that lady down in Florida, Kristen, she didn't get it.
No, she didn't get it at all. And
Kristen Jacobs. You
know what's interesting? I mean, everybody's such a hypocrite. It's like, so Kristen Jacobs, she didn't even want to be in the movie afterwards. She was like, I'm not going to sign a release, whatever. I'm like, well, you're a public figure, so you're in the movie. Sorry. Because she's an elected official. So that, I know the rules of documentaries. And, so she ended up in the movie. And then, a week later, her house gets broken into in Florida, and it says like all the stuff that they stole from her house. Well, somebody stole her husband's opioids. And it's like, oh, okay,
Right.
It's like opioid painkillers. Oh, great. That's on the, it's like, okay. So I get where you're coming from. You're the big pharma supporter, and you're, that's in your wheelhouse, and, you're gonna fight against this just because somebody else is giving you money or whatever, whatever the reason is.
What is the difference between I've got them, how do you pronounce that?
Mangda.
Yeah. And then you gave me another bottle of
Bali.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
What's the difference?
So there's different strains of the plant. And
it's like an indica and a sativa?
Yeah, exactly. Like, so you look at marijuana, you have indica, sativa, then you have the hybrids, right? So in kratom, we have a red vein, a green vein, and a white vein. And they say like the white vein is good for, like this one's good for energy, this one's good for pain, this one's good for anxiety. And in my studying of it, and as much as I've been around it, it's really hard to decipher like what's doing what. So basically there's, over 40 alkaloids in the plant. An alkaloid is just an active ingredient. It's like, so, the alkaloids in kratom that are responsible for all the health effects are called mitragynine and 7-hydroxymitragynine. And, the mitragynine is the main, alkaloid, and that's been found not to be addictive, right? And then you have the 7-hydroxymitragynine, which is found to be highly addictive, but it's in such a small quantity in the plant that it makes the plant maybe as addictive as nutmeg or coffee, they say. I didn't even know nutmeg was even addictive at all, but they say it's as addictive as nutmeg or coffee. I don't know anybody addicted to nutmeg. I know a lot of people addicted to coffee, but I don't think it's ever caused a problem to where, they couldn't make it to work, or, usually it when people are addicted to coffee, they're addicted to it and they get their shit done. And like we find that with kratom, like there could be a slight addiction to it, or I would even say, I think it's more of a mental thing. Like you're not physically addicted to it, but you just want it, because it makes you feel good. And I think it's more like that than actual addiction, but, studies need to be done to really figure out, to really define like the scale of addiction. Is it like, obviously if it was really addictive and people were getting hurt, we would know, so if it is addictive at all, it's very, very mild.
So what about the end of the documentary? You, the guy from Vegas, and then Cummings, what's the guy, the researcher, the farmer?
Christopher McCurdy.
Yes,
Dr. McCurdy.
Where did it leave off? I mean, because you guys are making some headway as far as getting some research done.
It's really cool. So we got Christopher McCurdy, Dr. McCurdy, down at University of Florida, Gainesville.
Dude never touches stuff.
The Gators. No, it's kind of crazy, right?
Yeah, researches the hell out of it, but it never does.
And that's interesting to me on like two levels, because we're talking about the strains, right? Like, how do you know the strains are different? And he tells me, hey, look, on paper, the strains look exactly the same. And that makes me go like, okay, well, I'm going to tell people like, look, on paper, it's exactly the same, but what about in the body? In the body and on paper are two different things, So, so Horseshoe, he'll claim like, hey, bro, there's a big difference between the two. I'm on the fence about it, where I don't know how much of a difference there is. And McCurdy's telling me they're the same on paper, but they're, so I don't know. We don't really know how effective these strains are. They say, hey, the Bali's better for pain and it's better for, anxiety and social anxiety and stuff, and the Mangda's better for energy and firing you up. And I just don't know. That's all I can say is I know what they're supposed to do and what they say they do. Just to be full transparency, I don't really know. I've used them both extensively and they both work well for me. I tend to like the Mangda better, but it's just a preference. And it could be mental. It could be a placebo.
How long did it take you to go through the dosing process? Because, like if it's not standardized, but for the most part, I would imagine that, most of these capsules are the same, right?
Yeah, pretty close.
But, the one doctor made an interesting point of pain is completely subjective. You and me might have the same disorder or we both got a broke leg. Okay, for me, since I'm the toughest SOB in the history of WWE,
you don't care.
I'm going to call it, hey, it's a 3. Well, to you, it's a 10.
Yeah, exactly.
So how did you go about your dosing?
So for me, the dosing was basically in the beginning, I took 2. And I'm like, okay, I didn't really feel anything. Actually, the first time I took it, they said take 2, and I took 4 because that's just how I am all the time. Just in my personality, right? Yeah. So like take 2, I'm like 2's not going to do anything.
You come from your brother was a wrestler, so
yeah.
That's her
take 2, I take 4, and I don't recommend that either. I don't recommend a lot of things I do, but so I took 4 and didn't really feel it that I started I think I'm feeling out of pain. Then I took 2 more, and then 10 minutes later, I was like, I'm totally out of pain now. Now it definitely worked. So I wasn't sure if it was the 4 or the 6. I wasn't sure which, what, I was kind of in between. So the next time I tried 4 again, I felt pretty good, but then I tried 6 and I felt great. So I'm like, okay, it's gotta be 6. That's where I'm at. I took 6 for probably close to a year, 6 capsules. And then I went up to 8 and I was feeling good at 8. And then I tried 10 and I felt great at 10. So I'm like, well, now I feel great at 10. And a whole nother year at about 8 to 10. So it's 8 to 10, right? And I've been sitting there for a while. The other thing is if it goes, so the other thing also is I'm trying to make sure that I don't get totally used to it to where it doesn't work for me. So I'm trying to do things where I'll take off, if I don't
cycle it,
if I feel good, I'll just not take it that day.
Right.
I think that's smart. You feel good. Who cares? You don't need it. So just don't take it. Sometimes I'll go on vacation and I'll just leave it because I'm who cares? We're just going to forget about, if I don't have it with me, I'm not going to go out of my way to try to go buy somewhere or something. It's just for me to take a break.
So then you could go back in pain, but you're not wigging because you ain't got it.
Yeah. You know what? There's some people I've talked to. I mean, this is what really gets me and what keeps me ticking. I went to a march in Sacramento. They had a march there, and I met this lady who's missing a leg. Her other leg is in a brace. She's in a wheelchair. Both of her arms are all
kind of palsy,
gnarled up, some sort of nerve issue. She's happy as can be, sitting there drinking kratom, and she's like, before I found this, I was the most miserable person in the world. She's like, I just sit here and bitch about everything. And now I found kratom and I feel great. And I'm like, I just gave her a big hug. I'm like, she made me cry. I talked to her for probably an hour because I was just so fascinated. I'm like, what happened to you? And she just had so many things happen to her that were screwed up surgeries, basically.
Right.
Was what happened to her. She had, it started with a cast that was put on too tight when she was a teenager. Imagine being she's like, I was a young, beautiful teenage girl. I broke my leg swimming. They put a cast on it and they put it on too tight and they had to amputate my leg.
Oh my.
I'm like, are you kidding me? And right there, your heart just sinks.
Yeah.
I mean, an accident's one thing. That just seems so avoidable. And then she just started going through all the other problems that she had along with it. And I'm just like, if they make this illegal, there's a lot more than this dude that goes to the gym and likes to work out and is in a little bit of pain because of his hip surgery.
Right.
There's real people with real, and I would include myself in a real person with real needs for pain, but I can get by without it.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm kind of tough too. I'm not going to be oh, I can't live without it. I'm not that guy, but it's definitely going to make my quality of life worse, But
dude, when you see what it did for the guy that was in the Navy, his quality of life, what's his name?
Andrew Turner.
Andrew.
And that's what I'm talking about. We need to keep it legal, even just for these people. The thing is that, if they do a bunch of studies on it and they find out it's dangerous, I would be right with them in saying, yeah, maybe we should ban it. But it's not going to happen. The more they study it, the more good they're going to find out. And I think that's where we're heading, So.
Where did you go to, what was it, a kava bar? What do you call that?
It was a kava / kratom bar.
Is that in L.A.? Is that in another
That's in
state?
Florida. It's in
Florida.
And they're all over Florida, and they do great. They do really good business.
Is there in L.A.?
No, but actually about 10 people have asked me since the movie came out. They're like, hey, let's open up a kratom bar. You know, people they like the idea of it. And I'm on it. When I say this, like, people think I'm crazy, but I think that, 10, 20 years from now, they might be selling stuff like this at Starbucks.
Really?
Yeah.
Because the one lady
look,
did
kratom is in the coffee family. It doesn't taste good. That's the problem. But I'm saying if they brewed up a drink with a dose of kratom in it and gave it some, and they feel great all day, why wouldn't they take it?
Okay, that leads me, because like when you said, if you're at your 10 a day, you take it all through the day. You take 10 caps right there in the morning as soon as you wake up.
Me personally, I wake up, I take it, and then I don't touch it the rest of the day. I know a lot
throughout the day.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people that do that quite differently, where they'll say like they might take 10 in the course of a day, but they'll take like 2 at a time, a couple times a day, a bunch of times a day. I don't know that there's any difference to it. It's just the way I've done it. It's been, obviously there's no doctor or no person telling me to do it that way. Even like Dr. McCurdy, he doesn't really have any information on dosing. And we're on the edge of something that's new, even though it's not really that new. It's been around for hundreds of years, but as far as like information on it, nobody really has much. So it's just like we're making it up as we go along. We just have to be responsible and try to figure it out.
What's Mark's take on it? He's a pretty scientific individual.
Yeah, Smelly really likes it. He really, really likes it. So I think for him, what he likes it for is cognitive issues. So he likes it for the way it makes you feel. He actually calls it a pre-workout because it's something that he likes to take when he has to think, like he's working on Slingshot. He's got 25 employees or whatever. He's got to go into a meeting, takes a little bit of kratom, and he's like, boom, on the ball. He's sharp. He feels good. And he goes in and does this thing, and he's creative, and he just feels like whenever he's like working on stuff, he likes to work on stuff at the coffee shop. He likes to be around when people are around and be stimulated. And so he says, I'll take some kratom, I'll go grab a coffee, and I'll sit there, and my mind is on fire. I'm thinking all these ideas, and I got all this stuff going. Just puts him in that good mindset and makes him feel good. So he really digs it. He's had some issues with it. Like a couple times he said, he thinks it makes him forget things. So these are things that like I value. Like my brother says like, hey, I think it makes me kind of forget things. Well, maybe that is a side effect, right? Like I don't want to be the guy who's like, I love kratom. I made a movie about it and you all need to take it, right?
Yeah,
I just think it's the worst way to approach anything.
Right.
The best way to approach it is like, I think kratom's the best supplement in the world, and I want everybody else to prove me wrong. And if you go with that attitude, then you can really help people. Because when it doesn't work for people, you can figure out maybe why, and maybe that helps you find another piece to the puzzle, right? Like, why isn't it working for this guy? It works for this guy, it doesn't work for this guy. Like, what? And the only way we can figure things out is to have as much information as we can. If that information all comes from one spot, then it's hard to decipher what's true and what's not.
Dude, I know before you heard of kratom, you were probably taking some nootropics like Alpha Brain.
Yes.
I used to dig that. I've taken it a long time just because I ain't bonded in a long time.
Yeah.
But I thought it worked.
Yeah.
Would you compare on a cognitive level? Would you compare this to that, or would this be that on steroids?
I think it's maybe that on steroids. I feel like I like Alpha Brain. Alpha Brain actually has science behind it. It's been proven in studies to be effective, right, for memory and for different things.
Right.
They did some double-blind placebo studies. I would like to do some of those studies as well. Now, Joe Rogan has probably been the biggest proponent of it. Like, he's been the most important person in the fight to keep it legal, without him even really knowing it. So going on his podcast, he's got a huge audience. And when we went on his podcast, we had so many letters, so many emails sent to the DEA that they kind of backed off on it for a little while. So he's been very instrumental in it. He likes it. He likes it a lot. He has his own supplement company with On It and with Aubrey Marcus. So I introduced it to him because I think like my goal is like, hey, maybe On It. Maybe somebody like you say, how do we get it in the big health food stores? It's like we get bigger people doing it, right? Like we get bigger people pushing the products, and we partner with those people. We get like we build something out of it. Say, hey, look, I like kratom, you guys like, let's go, let's all move forward together. So who knows what the future holds for it? I just feel like it's an awesome product, and I feel like as many people need to know about it as possible, and then that's how we get the research.
Before I continue on, give them the information at www.forum.leafoffaith.com.
Yep.
What do they need to do with that?
Forum.leafoffaith.com is just a place people can go talk about the movie or ask questions or do anything. That's just basically an open forum for people to go. People can hit me up on Instagram. A lot of people have questions about it on Instagram. I'm at Big Strong Fast, so people can hit me up and ask me whatever they want. I'll answer as many questions as I can. Sometimes it gets to be crazy, but yeah, I think that, I'm always putting out information on it. And then also the Urban Ice, the website for this particular brand is naturalorganics.com, which is natural organics with an X on the end.com. And that's where they can get Urban Ice. But there's a lot of great kratom companies out there. One of the things that we brought up in the movie is, and the reason why I partnered with Urban Ice specifically was like when I met Kelly, he was testing all his products. He's doing everything. I vetted the hell out of his company to make sure that they're doing things right. I'm like, I don't want to get involved in this if it's going to be shady. He was basically my resource for a lot of things we did in the movie because I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know who to talk to, anything like that. And so, yeah, I really vetted them pretty hard before I got in. But the first thing that he told me was you're going to find a lot of unscrupulous people in here. You're going to find a lot of people that are just trying to make a quick buck. Right. And so what they're doing is they're buying giant quantities from like Indonesia, and somebody will send it over here like a kilo, and they'll pay like $100 for it or whatever, and I'll sell that kilo for thousands of dollars, they'll package it and whatever, but they're not testing it for impurities. And that's a huge problem. Who wants to buy something that hasn't been tested, hasn't been run through anything? Now, for a lot of people, like, well, hey, it's way cheaper. I'm like, good, take your chances. I'm not going to be one of those people to take the chances.
A while ago, I said, I think 142 Americans die of ODs every day, and 22 vets a day are committing suicide. Yeah. Part of the stats in the documentary. I was surprised when Alabama ranked first in, opioid prescriptions.
Yeah, Alabama's pretty high. I think Ohio might have beat it. I think but Alabama's pretty high in they have more prescriptions than they have people. More prescriptions for opioids than there are people in the state. Right. So it just tells you people, like a lot of people are coming and getting several prescriptions, because usually it's like repeat offenders. And when I talk about repeat offenders, I'm not talking about somebody coming to Alabama like 3 times to get pills. They're coming like 40, 50 times a year to get pills. And that's why the numbers are so high. They're coming every week to get more pills.
Back in the day, that was Florida.
Yeah. Florida was so maybe I just moved next door, right?
Hey, so if you're taking kratom, or if I was to take some kratom, like right now, my leg starts hurting, that broke leg I was talking about, is it going to keep me up at night?
That's, again, sort of individual. So right. It's weird because, I talk to people who say they'll drink a double espresso and be able to go to sleep. So, yeah. We are all different in those kind of ways. The Bali, the red one, it's supposed to be more calming. And so I know a lot of people, like, they'll take it before they go to bed. And they say they wake up and they feel great. So I don't know that it does anything necessarily to like keep you awake. They say it does work like a stimulant though. So I would imagine that it would keep some people awake. Like I've never taken it to try to go to sleep. Like I've never taken it with intention. I always take it because I like the way it feels when I'm awake. So personally, I don't really take it before bed. I just take it in the morning. But some people have problems with anxiety at night. And so some people like to take it, the Bali one, the red one at night and calm down. So like I said, it's all subjective.
How long did it take to do this documentary?
About a year and a half, 2 years. They all take a while. And the reason why they take a while is like what I told you before we went on the air. When I walked in, I said, the thing is like, when I started the movie and you said, is this going to be a pro-kratom movie or an anti-kratom movie? Well, I don't know yet. And even like I partnered up with these guys at Urban Ice. They were like a resource for a lot of the movie. And I told them in our contract, and people can see it if they want, in our contract says you can't tell me anything to put in the movie. Like I'm not listening to you about anything, just so you know. And I was very clear, like this isn't a advocacy movie. And the one comment that we got at our premiere last week that was the best was from a journalist who stood up and said, I need to commend you guys. You did a great job of being balanced. And I said, well, thank God that we did, because it was really difficult. Like I told you, the one girl, Kristen Jacobs, she was trying to remove herself from the movie. So if she removed herself from the movie, there's like shit, we have a big hole there, because there wasn't enough people that would even talk about it on the other side. So when you go to the FDA and the DEA and the National Institute of Health, you would expect that these people would want to talk to you about kratom, Like, if they really knew their shit, they'd get on camera and they'd say, no, this is why it's bad. Listen, you're just a kid. You don't know what you're doing. This is why it's bad. We're doctors. We know, right? But they don't have any of that. They can't do that. So they don't do it. And that's a huge issue, is the people that work for us, the FDA and the DEA, they do whatever they want and they don't answer to anybody. They don't have to answer to us. They don't have to like do interviews. They don't have to grant us interviews. They don't even have to grant CNN interviews. You know, it's a huge problem. There's no transparency with the government.
How hard is it to line up the interviews? Like with the one, I think the other scientist, doctor lady, the darker brown hair.
Yeah.
I think she was down in Florida.
Deborah Mash.
Yeah, very knowledgeable.
She's great. Yeah.
How hard is it to line up all these interviews, and how much time will they give you?
Yeah, it's really individual too. Like, so for the most part, like people that take kratom, they were easy to get, right? People that are against kratom, like not really as easy. And then there's the one guy, he runs the National Products Association, Dr. Daniel Fabricant. And,
he wasn't a fan.
Oh no, he wasn't a fan. He wasn't a fan at all, but you know how I got him in the movie?
How?
He was a mark.
Oh, really?
He loved Bigger, Stronger, Faster. So he's in the movie. But then he like blocked me on Twitter. He started getting like, I wasn't even trying to be, I was letting him speak his mind, letting him tell me what he thinks.
You were.
He runs the Natural Products Association. Why wouldn't you want this product? The reason why he doesn't want that product is because nobody's paying him to lobby for it. So all you got to really do is pump, like, if we went and pumped $500,000 into the Natural Products Association and said, here, we want you to represent kratom also, they'd be right on it representing kratom. Like that's the bottom line. It's the other companies. They see that, kratom, nobody in the kratom industry is paying the NPA. They're not paying their bills. So we want kratom banned, like all these other supplement companies. They don't want kratom on the market. They want the least competition as possible. But moreover, they just want it to be fair. If they're paying the Natural Products Association, they want the kratom vendors to pay the Natural Products Association. So like all this lobbying and all these things, and it's all bullshit when you really start pulling the layers back.
Well, yeah, and it's where the money's going to come from and where it's going.
Yeah.
Who's the guy? I missed it now as I'm speaking to you. Who's the guy that created the DSHEA Act?
Yeah, that was Orrin Hatch. Yeah.
What was up with that?
So Orrin Hatch, he's the representative in Utah, and Utah is where they make like 80% of all the supplements in the United States. And the United States is a huge producer of supplements, about a $25 billion a year industry. It's a huge industry. And so, if 80% of the supplements are made there, he's going to do everything he can to protect them. So in 1994, he made a law called the DSHEA, Dietary Supplement Health and Education Act, which basically says, hey, look, we're smart people. Vitamin C has been on the market forever. There's no reason to run studies, and like it's a big waste of money. Anything that's been on the market before today, basically, we're just going to grandfather in and say it's okay. With no studies, because it's just like, it's been on the market forever and nobody's died, right? So literally like everything on the market before 94. Well, actually, technically, kratom was on the market before 94. It was on the market in 1984 in Florida again, right? At a place called Rockin' Cards and Gifts. I could do everything I could to get that information. And the one last thing that I needed to do was get the guy that owns the store to sort of sign off and get the slip from customs to say he imported it, and he wouldn't do it. So we didn't have that in the movie. Like I wanted to put that in the movie, but the guy wouldn't sign off on it, so we couldn't get like the sheet of paper that said it was sold before 1994. But it has been. We know that for a fact.
When you're doing this, who's doing the bulk of the research? Is that 99% on you, or do you have a team of people helping you?
On this particular movie, I had my friend Anthony Roberts. He's on Twitter a lot. He busts a lot of balls on Twitter. He makes people really mad. He actually just put out a whole article on Daniel Fabricant from the National Products Association about all of his sexual harassment claims. They've settled over $1 million in sexual harassment claims for Dr. Daniel Fabricant because he can't keep his mouth shut. So that's interesting. That's where your money's going to.
Right.
Your supplement lobby money is going to pay for a guy who's a pervert. That's basically what it is. But yeah, so Anthony Roberts was my researcher. He does a lot of really great research and really great digging up of facts. And so a lot of it's like I get on the phone with him and I'm like, hey, I wonder if they did sell it anywhere in the United States before this time, and we'll start Googling that. And so a lot of it was just basically like me and him going back and forth. But the main bulk of it, it's like 99% me doing the research. My editor and my cinematographer was the same guy, this kid, David Baca, and he was just absolutely incredible on this. I met David at Gold's Gym shooting a bunch of bodybuilders. He was like a guy that would shoot a lot of YouTube videos and things for some of the bodybuilders. And the shit would just look amazing. I'm like, who's shooting your stuff? Oh, this kid, David. And I go up to David, like, you want to make a real movie? Like, let's go. Like, let's go make a movie, you know? And, he jumped, jumped at the chance. And I love when people, A, they jump at the chance, but B, they go above and beyond. And he went way above and beyond the call, to make this movie and make it happen and help me and make it work. So I definitely applaud his efforts as well. It takes more than one person to make a movie, but, not that much more. So we did this one with like 3 or 4 people.
I enjoyed the hell out of it. You've had 0 negative experiences with kratom. You personally?
No. So they make kratom extracts, and, my friend gave me this kratom extract. He's like, this is really strong, really, really strong stuff. Drink half of it. So, me, I drank the whole thing. I puked for like 6 hours. I threw up for like 6 hours straight. And that's when that was early on in kratom. And that's when I realized that I'll never give people extracts or really recommend them, like those strong extracts. Like that's not what I'm in this for. I'm not in it to get high or get messed up. And I don't want anybody getting sick. So I'm like, that's out the window. Like if that made me sick and I've got like an iron stomach, then it's going to make a lot of people sick. And I'm not in it for the 5-hour energy. They're selling like these 5-hour energy type thing. I'm not in it for that purpose. Like I like to help people because they're hurting, and that's where I really want to make a mark. And if people use it because it makes them feel good and it helps them get through the day and helps them study better or whatever, that's great. But, the real people are the people like me that I want to help.
How can people see the documentary?
They can watch the documentary on iTunes or Google Play or Xbox or Vudu or any of the platforms that have where you can rent a movie on demand. Usually, your local cable, any of those ways they can check it out.
Hey man, before we,
it'll be on Netflix, but not until like probably late August. So people shouldn't wait. They should go watch it now.
Hey man, what about, is it the country where Flocka comes from, Iba Day?
Flocka, yeah. I don't know where that's from, but Flocka is insane.
It's very insane.
Were you talking about Ibogaine?
Yeah.
So Ibogaine's a completely different drug.
Yes, what is that? I missed that just because I got on the back of my notes. I'll tell you,
Flocka is a crazy drug. It's some sort of I don't even know what's
you were on Rogan's show and people were jumping in the back of cars, running through windows.
It basically turns people into like zombies, like flesh-eating zombies.
Was that what the dude was on that was eating them people?
I think so.
Years ago?
Like bath salts and stuff like that. It's like one of those really crazy drugs, right? And that's where like kratom just gets lumped in with
exactly
because they sell it at smoke shops. So it's like, oh yeah, it's like Flocka. No, it's not. But, so then there's this other drug called Ibogaine. It's from a plant called Iboga. It's really fascinating. If you want to watch a documentary on it, that's great. Vice did a whole documentary on it, like an hour long. And you'll see these people like spewing up it's just crazy. Like they take this, say you have a 20-year heroin addiction and you go there, people go there and they're all strung out on heroin. They look like shit. And they go in there and they drink this, like they do this whole ceremony because, anything in like Mexico or like with like the ayahuasca and everything, like anything down in South America, they do like a whole ritual with it.
Right.
And that's part of the whole thing, right? So they do this whole ritual with Ibogaine and then you drink it and whatever. And these people just start vomiting, like violently vomiting. They go through this whole crazy, like it almost looks like an exorcism or something, right? And then like the next day, they're just completely fine. They forget that they had a heroin problem. Like literally, I swear to God.
What's the name of that documentary?
I don't know, but it's called Ibogaine, Ibogaine, and it was a Vice documentary. So if you look up like on Vice TV, they do great stuff. Just look up Vice TV, and it's on YouTube, that whole thing. But, I found it really interesting because Dr. Deborah Mash, she's a leading researcher in Ibogaine in the whole world. And she was kind of against kratom, but for Ibogaine. And you're like, Ibogaine's crazy. Like people have actually died from it, but I must say and be fair to Ibogaine, the people only died from it when they were administered it in like really, screwed up circumstances that weren't the proper, they weren't the proper circumstances. So when people died from it, it's because they were doing it with people that didn't know what they were doing, supposedly. That's what I've been told. So just to be fair to it. So, but she's against one and for the other. To me, I think they should just keep all this stuff legal and let's figure out how to use it. But I think she was against kratom because she's friends with Kristen Jacobs down in Florida.
Right.
And they do, like, that's the way things operate. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I have a friend at University of Miami. She'll write up some bullshit about kratom and we'll use that. And I don't know that Dr. Mash believes it, because when I started pushing Dr. Mash and I started asking her questions, you saw she goes, there might be a place for kratom. You know? Yeah, you know there is, lady. I know you know there is.
So on a pain level day to day right now with your 10 pills of kratom,
yeah.
How are you? Happy as a clam?
Yeah, pretty good. You know, like I still have pain, right? So, but today I did
That's chronic. I mean, is your
yeah,
all in your hips,
chronic.
or you've got
no,
arthritis?
Like all over, like my knees, my ankles.
Is that from
my
all
feet.
the lifting, or is there some genetics involved?
No, it's something genetic, something weird. Like my feet hurt every day, my ankles hurt, my knees hurt. Everything's arthritic, you know. So the cartilage is wearing away.
But this is helping you, definitely.
I think the combination of the diet and, because like, look, the diet reduces inflammation greatly. So you're reducing inflammation.
But did you feel that inflammation? Because I know it showed up on your test earlier in our conversation when we were talking about it, but did you feel it?
Yeah, I definitely felt it because, I wasn't as mobile when I was lifting. So the other day I just deadlifted 500 pounds for 5 reps on a trap bar. Right? 2 fake hips. Like, not bad.
Yeah.
And before, you know, like before, so I competed at Mark's powerlifting meet in February. And just because he wanted me to compete and show up and, you know, show my face. So I competed. I deadlifted 405, I think, at that meet. You know, just go in and do something, you know, just show up and show your face. Okay, I did. I did 405. And that was the most I thought I could do. But then sticking to this carnivore diet, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to try more weight and more weight and more weight. And I just kept, you know, keep going up and up. And so I just realized like I'm still a lot stronger. I've gotten a lot stronger again, because like I said, I've upped my protein, and I've, from you know, when I started the carnivore diet, my strength just started, you know, coming right back around. So I feel really good. I'm stronger than I've been in a while. I'm not stronger than I've ever been. I was a pretty good power lifter back in the day. And I still have some injuries. Like I tore my rotator cuff, and that sort of shot my bench to hell and stuff like that. So
did you have it fixed?
No.
Which one?
This one.
Dude, a pain in the ass. I basically had to quit inclining. I can flat bench, and I'll use my
slingshot.
I use my slingshot. I like the blue one.
Yeah.
It's a little bit lighter.
Yeah.
So I use the blue slingshot when I'm finishing up. But if I start going incline, my right rotator, I've had both of them fixed. Both of them were just massive tears. Everything was destroyed. But I hate the incline. My shoulders hurt the incline. I hate the incline, so I just stay away from that.
My best help has been hanging. So I have a friend, my friend Aaron Alexander, does like a lot of bodywork stuff, and he's been working on my shoulder. And he was like, "Hey man, like we got to get you hanging." I'm like, hanging? You know, I've heard of it before. People just hang from a bar. Yeah. Right? And so I started hanging. I could barely get my arm even up a little bit. And now my range of motion is much better. I just do that a couple times a week, you know, hang from a bar and I do a lot of negative. So, you know, like the machines, the assisted pull-up machine?
Yeah.
You do assisted pull-ups, let it pull you up, and then go down. Take 10 seconds on the way down to go down. And just use as much assistance as you need to make it so it's not even difficult. But just that range of motion, going through that range of motion really slow, it really helps to, when you tear your rotator cuff, what happens? Your lat just tightens up to protect it, right? So that's what happened to me is my lat just froze up, and I got to stretch that back out over time to make it so that the rotator cuff will work again, you know?
Earlier in the conversation, you brought up Charles Poliquin's name. When you were talking about the one of the techniques, was you talking about time under tension, or was it just
He was talking about cluster training back then, yeah. But Charles Poliquin has a lot of really interesting things. That actually, what I just told you, coming down real slow, that's from him. I was like, hey, I'm trying to fix my shoulder. And he said, you gotta go real slow, you know.
Yeah, but you're never going to fix your shoulder. I mean, you can rehab it as much as you want to, but you ain't going to fix it.
No, I don't think I'll ever fix it.
You can make it stronger and more stable.
I don't think I'll ever
working around it.
I don't think I'll ever fix it 100%. I think it's too damaged. It's torn, you know.
Dude, when you do a thick end tear to your infra supraspinatus, you ain't going to put them back together.
And you know, a lot of people are like, oh, you should just get stem cells in there and this. Now, I don't know if any of that stuff works yet.
Not yet.
I don't know.
Hey, okay, so back to the kratom, and let's wrap this thing up. So do you think kratom could be on the track to where, you know, marijuana is now in California? Because now it's legal.
Yeah, well,
before you had to have like a doctor's note or whatever.
Yeah, kratom it's legal here, so it's actually ahead of marijuana as far as like it's been legal here. It's just sort of kind of in the doghouse, with the with the DEA and stuff. The problem is the DEA only has the power to make it Schedule 1. I think if it was up to the DEA, they'd say, okay, let's schedule this. And I think something like this might be smart. Let's make it like a low schedule, like Schedule 5 or something. So maybe you need like a doctor recommendation. You need some, but at least it would keep the people that are taking it now already. It would allow them to still have access to it. It would also allow us to study it. So the DEA can only make one call, and that's to make it Schedule 1. It's the FDA that has to come in and say, like, if it's a different schedule or not. And, to tell you the truth, I don't think it should be scheduled at all. I just don't think it's that powerful. I don't think it's that dangerous. I don't think it's dangerous at all, to tell you the truth. I think there's a lot of stuff that's already on the market that's way more dangerous, including our Advil and Tylenol that we sell every single day. I mean, it is way more concerning to me than kratom.
Okay, if I had a hell of a headache, okay, let's say I drank too much.
Yeah.
I got a hangover. I need some relief. I take 2 kratoms. Is it going to make me feel better?
I don't know. You know what I mean? Like there you go. It's like subjective.
Right.
I don't know. I would say like a lot.
I know if I had something like that going on, if I took 2 Vicks, I'm still going to feel like shit because I got a hangover, and you know how that feels.
Yeah.
But it would probably take the headache away.
Yeah, luckily, I haven't drank in 4 years. So
well, I know.
I don't remember
I'm not trying to spin you up on drinking. But
you want me to have some beers with you? Is that what you're trying to say?
No. I'm just trying to just like just a random question, and just like just with respect to its pain killing abilities.
I think that I think it would help. I think if you had a hangover, I wouldn't just go like, oh, I'm going to take 2 and it's going to fix it.
And maybe a hangover is a bad, I sprained my knee.
Yeah.
How about that?
See, I think actually it's interesting. I think for a hangover, like the feeling of a hangover to me is chronic pain. That's what chronic pain feels like. So I think with a hangover, it would kind of take away that shitty, achy, body achy feeling, that you have. I think it would.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't say for sure, but then I think also like, I think kratom for me, and this is again just for me, works really great on my chronic pain. But if I bang my knee on something, it doesn't really work the same like that.
Right.
If I feel like I'm still mixed on it. I don't know. Like what I'd really love to see, and this is what gets me so excited about it. I would love to see them turn this into a botanical drug also, so that we have both, right? So then we could really see. Like, so what you do is you take kratom and you leave it as is on the shelf and you sell it as a dietary supplement. But then you get a pharma company to turn it into a botanical drug, which means that the base of it is still the plant, the place of the, it's still plant-based. It's not like you're totally turning it into a chemical, but you're just, you have to use a chemical process to do what they call standardize it.
Right.
Then you could standardize and say, this is 25 milligrams of kratom. And then you would know exactly what 25 milligrams of kratom feels like, what 50 feels like, what 100 feels like. Then you could gauge like, oh yeah, I could use 100 milligrams, kills my hangover, whatever. Like we would just know a lot more.
Right.
We'd be a lot more schooled in it if we had some sort of system like that,
Tell people one more time where they can find you on social media and where they can find and watch A Leaf of Faith.
At Big Strong Fast on social media, on all social media, Twitter and Instagram mainly. And you can find the movie at iTunes, and you can find the movie on Google Play as well. It's called A Leaf of Faith, and it's about kratom.
Dude, you do a really good job on all your documentaries. I was there when Bigger, Faster, Strong came out when you premiered that.
You know what?
A long time ago?
What one of the best feelings in the world is? You make a documentary, right? And you have somebody that is like one of your idols, and they show up at your goddamn premiere. How cool is that?
Well, it was cool. Well, we're buds, but I
no, but that
it.
was awesome.
And I didn't see Trophy Kids. I'm gonna watch that because they're part of the trailers in there, or at least the kids, the guys yelling at his kid. It's like, Jesus Christ, now I got to watch that. I love Prescription Thugs, and I really enjoyed a Leaf of Faith. I'm gonna try this stuff. I'm gonna give it a shot, and I'm gonna give you some feedback from my standpoint.
Absolutely, man. Well, you're a legend. I love talking to you always, so anytime you want to do this, we'll do it again.
There's never a dull week in the world of professional wrestling, so to keep up on all of it, be sure to subscribe to the Wade Keller Pro Wrestling Podcast here at PodcastOne. I produce 2 new shows each week. Every Thursday on our flagship show, I'm joined by a co-host from the wrestling journalism field to talk about the hot topics in WWE and elsewhere. Every Friday, I'm joined by a guest who has worked in the wrestling business, including ex-WWE creative team members like Kevin Eck talking about Drew McIntyre.
Drew was a young guy, and did it go to his head, and did he walk around like he was the chosen one? He did, and I was frank with him, and I said, Drew, just so you know, this is how they view you.
And Podcast One's own Christian Harloff, talking about his days working for WWE and Vince McMahon specifically.
As far as the perception of him, I mean, he's the king. He walks in, and it's just, you can feel it. I mean, if the Force was real, you would feel the Force powering into the room when he enters.
Just search Wade Keller on Apple Podcasts or on the Podcast One app or anywhere else you listen to podcasts.
All right, everybody, give me the go-home cue, so I'm going to wrap up this podcast and ride off in the sunset. Before I do that, I want to thank filmmaker extraordinaire Chris Bell for coming by the crib today. I really enjoyed A Leap of Faith, and that would be my video of the week for something for you to watch. Find out where you can watch A Leap of Faith. It's full of information. Maybe it will offer some help to you or a loved one you know who may have an opioid addiction problem or needs some help in the pain relief department. Check it out. Make that decision for yourself, but I highly suggest you watch it. Put together really well. Very informative. Hey, man, ProWrestlingTees.com/Steve Austin has all my Broken Skull Ranch shirts. And if you want to wear Broken Skull Ranch and drink the best damn IPA on the planet, it's Broken Skull IPA from El Segundo Brewing Company, by the way. You can get Broken Skull IPA at Whole Foods and Total Wines if you live out here in California. If you don't live in Cali, check InsideTheCellar.com and see if they ship to your state. And as I'm sitting here with a Cold Steel Broken Skull knife in my side pocket, you can get the Cold Steel Broken Skull knife or the new Working Man's knife, and you can get them at my new Amazon store. Amazon has the best price on both knives. Just go to Amazon.com/shop/Steve Austin, or just go to Cold Steel Knives website and get it directly from there. Badass, super sharp, dependable, long-lasting knives. And that's all I got to say about that. And I do want to say one more thank you to all the fine sponsors of the Steve Austin Show, especially DDP Yoga, TrueCar, Geico, TheraWorks, and the WWE Network. That's how I'm able to do this podcast for you twice a week for free. And you can find all my sponsors at PodcastOne.com. Just click on the Killer Deals button at the top of the page and then click on the Steve Austin Show banner. Folks, I am on social media, Twitter and Instagram, at Steve Austin BSR. And now I'm fixing to go jump in my swimming pool and splash everybody with a big-ass cannonball. Folks, until next time, my name is Steve Austin, and I'll catch your ass down the road.
This has been a Podcast One production. Download new episodes of The Steve Austin Show every Tuesday at PodcastOne.com. That's PodcastOne.com.